Is Rosé's solo career losing momentum? Rosé should have been everywhere after APT. And I do not mean everywhere in the annoying post 100 TikToks, do a dance challenge with every idol in the Hybe cafeteria and pretend that is promotion kind of way. I mean everywhere like a real pop girl is supposed to be everywhere when she has a hit that big. Performances, live sessions, interviews that actually discuss the music, a second single push, festival moments, award show stages, acoustic versions, viral clips that do not rely entirely on fans doing free marketing, a clear narrative, a clear era, a clear message to the industry. Rosé is not just a Blackpink member having a solo moment. She is a global pop girl, or at least she could have been. And that is what makes this entire rollout so frustrating. Because Rosé herself is not the problem. Her voice is not the problem. Her star power is not the problem. Her beauty, her fashion pull, her fan base, her emotional appeal, none of that is the issue. The issue is the black label. And yes, we need to say the name because at some point, minimalist promotion stops looking sophisticated and starts looking like mismanagement with good lighting. A PT was not a normal hit. It was not just a K pop fandom hit where the numbers look big because fans are streaming like they have been threatened by a group chat admin. It actually crossed over. Casual listeners knew it, TikTok knew it, people outside the Blackpink bubble knew it. People who cannot name more than two K pop groups were suddenly singing along. That kind of moment is rare. A global hit does not fall into an artist's lap every comeback. When it happens, a label has to move fast, move smart, and build around it. And that is where the black label dropped the ball. Not because Rosé flopped. She did not. Not because people stopped caring. They clearly did not. But because the label did not fully use APT as a launch pad to make Rosé feel unavoidable as a solo artist. That is the key word, unavoidable. A hit song gives you attention. A good label turns that attention into identity. Who is Rosé as a solo artist? What is her sound? What world does she live in? Why should casual listeners stay after the viral chorus fades? What makes her more than just one big collaboration? Those questions should have been answered loudly after APT. Instead, the era often felt too quiet, too scattered, and too dependent on Rosé's existing fame to carry the weight. And that is dangerous because fans will always show up. Fans will stream, fans will trend hashtags, fans will make edits, fans will write essays defending every decision like they are on the label's legal team. But casual listeners are not fans. Casual listeners need repetition. They need reminders. They need to see the artist again and again until the identity sticks. That is how pop girls are made, not by one successful song, by a full campaign. And this is where the black label style becomes a problem. They understand aura. I will give them that. They understand taste. They understand coolness. They know how to make everything look expensive, moody, and editorial. They know how to put Rosé in black and white lighting, have her stare into the distance like she just remembered a tragic French memory she never actually had. And suddenly, everyone calls it art. Fine, beautiful, stunning, very Pinterest board, very sad girl at a luxury hotel. But music careers need more than aesthetics. A pop era needs movement. After APT, the next moves should have felt aggressive. Not cheap, not desperate. Aggressive as in intentional. A live performance that reminds everyone Rosé can actually sing. A stripped acoustic session that turns casual listeners into believers. A second single moment that makes the album feel bigger than one song. A few smart interviews where she talks about the sound, the writing, the heartbreak, the identity of the album, a festival stage, a proper award show performance, a run of performances that says, yes, the song is fun, but Rosé is the artist you need to pay attention to. That should have been the mission. Instead, too much of the era felt like the label said, well, the song is huge, the fans are loud, the brand deals are coming in, so we're good. No, you are not good. You are lucky, and luck needs management. A PT should have been the door. The black label should have pushed Rosé through that door and into the main pop girl conversation. Instead, it felt like they stood outside taking aesthetic photos of the doorknob. That is the fumble. Because Rosé had all the ingredients: a global hit, a full album, a recognizable voice, a built in fan base, Western visibility, fashion power, emotional material, a clear personal style. She was not some artist with no lane. Ooh. Her lane was right there: glamorous heartbreak pop, soft rock edge, emotional vocals, luxury image, a little messy, a little vulnerable, still polished enough to sit front row at Fashion Week. That is a strong identity. So, why did the campaign sometimes feel like the concept was just Rosé exists? Yes, she exists. We noticed. Now promote the music. The frustrating part is that Rosé is exactly the kind of artist who benefits from live exposure. Some idols are stronger in music videos than on stage. Rosé is not one of them. Her voice has character. Her tone is instantly recognizable. She sounds emotional without forcing it. She has that cracked glass quality where one line can sound like the end of a situationship in the rain. That should be the weapon. Use it. Give her live sessions. Give her stripped down arrangements. Give her performances where the general public can see that she is not just a viral chorus and a famous friend on the track. She is a musician with a voice people remember. But that was not pushed hard enough. And before anyone says, but she had promo, yes, she had visibility. But visibility is not the same as a fully activated era. There is a difference between people seeing Rosé and people understanding Rosé as a solo artist. Fashion appearances keep her visible. Brand campaigns keep her prestigious. Magazine covers keep her image expensive. But none of that replaces a musical narrative. And this is where the brand partnership conversation gets uncomfortable. Rosé is incredibly powerful in fashion. That is not up for debate. Saint Laurent, Tiffany, Puma, magazine covers, global campaigns. She fits that world so naturally, it almost feels unfair. She has the kind of aura luxury brands love: elegant, emotional, untouchable, but still soft enough to sell relatability. Good for her, truly. Secure the bag, secure several bags, secure the whole luxury warehouse. But when the fashion side feels more organized than the music side, fans are allowed to ask questions. Why does every brand move feel polished, timed, and intentional? While the music era sometimes feels like someone at the label forgot to press schedule post, why does the ambassador work feel consistent, but the artist development feels inconsistent? Why is the fashion machine sharper than the music machine? That is not Rosé's fault. That is management, because she is not a luxury mannequin who occasionally sings. She is an artist. And if the black label wants the world to treat her like a serious global solo artist, they need to promote her like one, not just photograph her like one. This is also why the quality over quantity defense does not fully work. Quality is important, obviously. Nobody wants Rosé releasing random songs just to keep the timeline busy. She does not need a chaotic K-pop content factory rollout. That would not fit her. But quality and strategy are not the same thing. You can have quality music and still underpromote it. You can have beautiful visuals and still fail to build momentum. You can have a massive hit and still not turn it into a lasting era. That is exactly the problem here. The release frequency does not need to be excessive, but it does need rhythm. A solo career needs pacing. It needs the feeling that each move connects to the next. After APT, there should have been a stronger bridge from the hit to from the album to the next single, from the music to the live performances, from the performances to the larger identity. Instead, the pieces often felt separate. The hit over here, the album over there, the fashion campaigns in another room, the fans trying to stitch everything together with edits, streaming parties, and defensive Twitter threads. That is not a campaign. That is a scavenger hunt. And K pop fans need to stop romanticizing this kind of rollout as exclusive. Sometimes exclusive just means underutilized. Scarcity can be powerful. It can make an artist feel premium. It can prevent overexposure, but too much scarcity becomes absence, and absence is not always mysterious. Sometimes the public just moves on. That is especially true in pop music right now, where attention is brutal. One week, you are the moment. The next week, another song, another girl, another meme, another drama takes over. If a label does not keep the public engaged, the internet will happily replace the conversation. That is why the new pop girl window mattered so much. After APT, Rosé had a chance to enter that conversation beyond K-pop, not just as Rosé from Blackpink, but as Rosé, the solo pop artist, the girl with the hit, the voice, the fashion image, the emotional album, and the global audience. But becoming a pop girl requires framing. Look at how modern pop girls are built. It is not just music. It is personality, visuals, live moments, repeated public appearances, a clear emotional world, and a reason for people to keep watching. The best eras feel like they have a thesis. Rosé had the material for that thesis. The black label just did not underline it enough. They should have made the message impossible to miss. A PT was the introduction, but Rosé is the story. Instead, a PT sometimes felt bigger than the era around it. And that is a serious issue. A massive song can lift an artist, but it can also overshadow them if the follow up does not expand the identity. And because APT was a collaboration with Bruno Mars, the follow up mattered even more. That is not shade. Bruno Mars is a huge artist. His presence helped the song reach spaces it might not have reached alone. That is how collaborations work. Strategic features exist for a reason. But after a massive collab, the label has to prove the main artist can carry the next chapter. They needed to redirect the attention from Fun Bruno and Rosé's song to Rosé has arrived as a solo pop force. That transition was not strong enough. The public got the hit. They got the aesthetic. They got some pieces of the album, but did they get a complete solo pop identity pushed at full power? Not really. And that is why fans are frustrated. They are not frustrated because Rosé is unsuccessful. She is obviously successful. They are frustrated because the success could have been bigger, deeper, and more career defining. There is a difference between a successful era and a fully maximized era. This one feels successful. It does not feel fully maximized. And honestly, that is the most annoying kind of fumble. Not a disaster, not a total collapse, not some cheap, messy rollout where everyone can clearly see the chaos. This is a polished fumble. Everything looks beautiful on the surface, but underneath, you can see the missed opportunity. The black label has taste, but taste is not enough. Taste gives you pretty visuals. Strategy gives you staying power. Taste makes fans say, she looks expensive. Strategy makes the public say, I need to hear what she does next. And Rose needs both. Because right now, her celebrity is extremely strong. Her fashion image is strong, her fan base is strong, but the solo music identity should be even stronger after a hit like APT. That is the standard. Not because we hate her, because the opportunity was massive. And this is where fandom hypocrisy comes in, because fans will drag another idol for having too many brand deals and not enough music, then turn around and call it global queen behavior when it is their fave. Please, at least be consistent while being delusional. If an idol's brand partnerships are more consistent than their performances, that is worth discussing. If a label relies more on luxury campaigns than musical storytelling, that is worth criticizing. If fans have to do half the promotional work themselves, that is not organic success. That is unpaid labor with photo card benefits. Rose deserves better than that. She deserves a label that understands her music is not secondary to her image. She deserves a team that uses her voice as aggressively as brands use her face. She deserves a campaign that turns casual listeners into actual followers of her artistry because the potential is still there. That is why this conversation matters. Nobody is this annoyed over an artist they think has no future. People are annoyed because the future is obvious and the rollout is not matching the potential. Rose could still become that pop girl. She has not lost the public. She has not lost the fandom. She has not lost the talent. But the black label cannot keep relying on aura and assume the career will build itself. Star power is not a strategy. Star power is the thing strategy is supposed to use. And if a label gets handed a global hit, a loyal fan base, a full album, luxury visibility, and an artist with a voice people recognize instantly, the response should not be, let's keep it cute and mysterious. No, the response should be, let's make her unavoidable. That is where they fell short. Rosé should have owned more musical space after APT, more stages, more performances, more live vocals, more narrative, more moments where non fans were forced to understand that this was not a side quest, because that is the deeper issue with a lot of global K pop soloists now. Labels know how to make idols look iconic. They know how to sell albums. They know how to secure brand deals. They know how to create luxury visibility. But do they know how to build long term solo artists? That requires consistency. And consistency is where these companies start acting allergic. They want the prestige of a global pop star without always doing the repetitive work a global pop career needs. The interviews, the performances, the storytelling, the stage building, the second and third waves of promotion, the boring but necessary machinery that turns a hit into a career chapter. Rose has already proven people will pay attention. Now, the black label has to prove they know what to do with that attention. Because if they do not, the risk is not that Rose suddenly disappears. She is too famous for that. The risk is that her solo music career becomes a series of impressive moments instead of a fully developed pop legacy. And that would be a waste. Not a failure, a waste. A waste of a voice this recognizable, a waste of a hit this big, a waste of an album identity that could have been pushed harder, a waste of a star who could have been positioned as one of the defining pop girls of this era. So, no, Rose is not losing momentum because people stopped caring. She is at risk of losing momentum because the black label did not fully capitalize on the moment when everyone was already watching. And that is the part that deserves criticism. Not Rosé's character, not her talent, not her ambition, the decisions, the pacing, the underuse, the polished hesitation. Because if APT was the spark, the black label should have turned it into a fire. Instead, they gave us a beautifully lit candle and expected everyone to call it a bonfire. So the bigger question is not, is Rosé still successful? Of course she is. The real question is, how do you get handed a global hit, a star like Rosé, and a fan base willing to move mountains and still not fully turn her into the new pop girl? Because if the black label cannot answer that, fans absolutely will. And that's where I'm leaving it. A PT gave Rosé the door. The black label just didn't kick it open. She had the hit, the voice, the image, and the global attention. The missing piece was strategy. because a viral song can create a moment, but only a smart label can turn that moment into a real pop girl era. So if Rosé still doesn't feel as unavoidable as she should, that's not a Rosé problem. That's a management problem. Like, subscribe and tell me, did the black label waste the APT moment? Bye.